Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, your humble host, Willie Bragg. Today, we are going to talk about something that just came to my attention, and I don't know how the hell I missed this. It's been a lot of news lately right now, so because there's been a lot of news about all kinds of shit going on, it just kind of went over my head, and how the hell it passed me. This knowledge past me is beyond me, but I will nevertheless try to make up for it by sharing with you my insight on this. So let me get started on this here. Give me a moment. As you know, Venezuela is ruled currently by I don't have graphics for him. I meant to put it up there, but Nicolas Maduro, preceded by Hugo Chavez. Give me a moment. There we go. Anyway, United States has pretty much made trouble for Venezuela, the government of Venezuela. Really, honestly, probably starting since the days of George W. Bush. But I'm sure that they were doing things during the Clinton years. It was in 1998 when Hugo Chavez got democratically elected as the leader of the president of Venezuela. And he had a radical program. And people will say, well, Venezuela was a rich country. It was a rich country until them socialists came in there and took it over. That's bunk. Because the government sector of Venezuela is still a largely free market economy. And I'm going to go into where Joe Biden fits in at the moment. So bear with me. Venezuela, right now, is a free market economy. The United Socialist Party of Hugo Chavez, and currently with Nicolas Maduro, is it is perhaps a revolutionary socialist party, but with perhaps many tendencies. Yeah, there are probably Marxist-Leninists in the party. There are Marxist-Leninists in the party. There are people that have a homegrown Venezuelan populist view of what they think socialism is in that party too. There are people who are social democratic in that party. It's a large multi-tendency party. And Venezuela has a parliamentary system, and there is an opposition. And the thing about it is that just like a lot of governments in Latin America, prior to this government, and this government does have corruption. I'm not going to say they are perfect, but previous governments in Venezuela has been corrupt too. And if I want to make a comparison, I'll compare it to basically a football player whose parents are extremely wealthy and powerful, and this kid had it all. Connections, popular, had all the girlfriends, just had it all, just had everything handed to him. Privilege as privilege can get. Then you got this lower middle class kid. He's got an ordinary. And he maybe not exactly the best person in the world, a little snarky. Probably done some, bad shit, like most kids would do bad shit, but not really a bad person otherwise. And their kids, they're worse than this kid. And then the football player don't pick on the other kids who are bigger and do meaner shit than this little scrawny lower middle class kid that may do occasional mean shit, but for the most part is not a mean person. But this football player with all the connections and all the privilege in the world, picking on the little kid. The United States is the football player, and that little kid is Venezuela. And that's the analogy I'm trying to make. Venezuela is poor today because of what the United States have done to Venezuela. And I'm not out here to sit there and take a knee-jerk anti-imperialism for the sake of anti-imperialism attitude that maybe some on the harder left takes. Because I hear some things that the hard left, a lot of people who are to my left say, and that's just a little over the top. Not in every case not in every case the enemy of the United States is always going to be by default the good guy, and vice versa. There are sometimes the United States may be benevolent, probably more times than not. Same thing with people on the other side. Now we have a problem with Iran over the years, and it goes back to how the CIA toppled the government of Mohammed Mossadegh, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, in 1953, and put in the Shah. And a lot of people say, well, everything was good under the Shah until the Ayatollah took over. Well, remember, Ayatollah Khomeini was an early supporter of the Shah, and he was opposed to Mohammed Mossadegh. And Mossadegh was close to the Soviets, and that's really what it came down to. And the Ayatollah was, and his mullahs are very conservative, very right wing in their own way too. So, and believe me, if there was something like Mohammed Mossadegh ever taking over Iran again, and it was between the mullahs that currently control Iran and a force kind of like Mossadegh that would take over Iran, believe me, our U.S. government will be siding with the extreme Shias trying to retake over Iran. Trust me. Look at Afghanistan during the 1980s when Reagan backed these rebels in Afghanistan to go and compare them to the founding fathers because of the Soviets, and declaring the Soviets as a force for evil. So in a lot of conflicts in the world after World War II, in some scenarios, the United States were the bad guys, but not always the bad guys. The Soviets were in some instances not always the bad guys. In some instances, they were the bad guys. There's a lot of nuance out there. So I want to get that out of the way. Now, Joe Biden is easing restrictions right now on Venezuela. And I hope to God that he actually gut out the restrictions, get rid of the sanctions. Because if you want lower gas prices, you will stop buying your oil from Saudi Arabia. If you want to talk about human rights, you want to compare Saudi Arabia to Venezuela. Let's compare the two countries. In Saudi Arabia, if you leave the Muslim faith and become an atheist or a Christian, or you become whatever, if you leave any faith but the Islamic faith within Saudi Arabia, and for those out there on the politically correct left, I'm not bashing Islam saying this, get over it, you get the death penalty. The women activists that were crusading for the right of women to drive. Yes, Saudi Arabia finally granted women the right to drive cars, but the women who actually were responsible for convincing the government to go and allow women to drive were executed. Being LGBTQ in Saudi Arabia will get you the death penalty. It's run under Sharia law, and it's one of the most right-wing governments domestically in the world. It is a human rights nightmare. The government of Saudi Arabia is committing a genocide as we speak right now in Yemen with the war that's going on there. And what? The United States sells arms to Saudi Arabia. Never forget that while George W. Bush wanted to go and invade Iraq for supposedly causing 9/11, remember, most of the people that were involved were Saudi Arabian. Bin Laden's family were very close with the Bush family. I hope nobody ever forgets that. I would be glad to always remind people if they need to be reminded of that. Suffice to say, in Venezuela, I'm not going to say they have the greatest record on LGBTQ rights, but they're certainly enlightened and forward thinking compared to Saudi Arabia. In Venezuela, predominantly Roman Catholic country, you can be Protestant, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim, you can be atheist. It's not against the law. There's no death penalty in Venezuela. It was the very first country, one of the first countries in the world to get rid of the death penalty. Still doesn't have a death penalty to this day. So there are things about Venezuela. Venezuela still has one of the freest press and one of the most free speech societies in the world. And I found this out, and I actually found that hard to believe, but as it turned out to be true. But as far as the socialism is concerned in Venezuela, it's not even that much of a socialist country. Now, the United Socialist Party is trying to turn the country socialist, perhaps, but it's still largely capitalist. The government sector of Denmark is much larger and plays a bigger role in the economy in Denmark than the government of Venezuela, if that tells you something. And I don't think that even the most rigid, hardcore, right-wing, Kool-Aid drinking, ass-licking Ben Shapiro fan who hates socialism would call Denmark a Stalinist state. At least I hope not anyway. Unless they're an elected member of the U.S. Senate or U.S. House, member of the squad, then all of a sudden they're Pol Pot in their eyes. But that's the Overton window we have to deal with here in the United States. But I'm meandering, and let me get to the main point I'm trying to make. I don't have a very high opinion of Joe Biden. I don't like Joe Biden. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I will not vote for Joe Biden in 2024. I think he's a mediocre president. He sucks in all kinds of ways. He cheated Bernie Sanders in the year 2020 in the primaries. Thank God there's no disinformation governance board in existence right now to shut me down for saying this. But here's the thing. Because of what's it called, Nord Stream oil from Russia, that they seem to have an advantage in the oil markets right now with the petrodollars at stake and all. The United States are in a conundrum when it comes to what to do here domestically with the gas prices. And so instead of buying our oil from a human rights abuser like Saudi Arabia, and ideally I would like to see us just keep the oil here in the United States. But if we have to buy from abroad, I would rather buy from Venezuela. Any problem that exists in Venezuela today would be less problematic if the United States deal with Venezuela. The United States deals with countries much harsher on the human rights violation scale than Venezuela. But you see, the United States likes to pick a fight and bully countries. And, and so it started with George W. Bush and Barack Obama. And Donald Trump tightened the sanctions, declared one Guaido, I believe was his name, as the president of Venezuela when he wasn't. And John Bolton, who was actually trying to out-neocon Donald Trump in a fight with Venezuela. I think that was probably even too much for Donald Trump, that he had to go and fire his ass. And I know that Joe Biden is probably not a fan of Nicolas Maduro, but it is the smartest thing in the world right now to go ahead and try to do something about the lowering of the gas prices at the pump. Because if we don't, I mean, the economy can collapse. And, because it feels like the year 2005, 2006, 2007 right now. And and I remember those years very well. And I didn't like those years too much. And so while I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm going to give him a compliment, I have to say easing the restrictions is a great start for Joe Biden, but it would really, really be nice if he can just go ahead and just fucking lift the entire sanctions and stop being antagonistic 100% toward Venezuela. And while we're at it, do the same thing with Cuba. Neither country is a threat to our national security. The people in Florida, if you're concerned about people in Florida, whether they're going to vote Democrat or Republican, not that it should be about partisanship, they're not going to vote Democrat anyway. They think all Democrats are communists, whatever they think a communist is. So you might as well just lift the sanctions, whatever. And if Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz get angry, fuck them. If Ron DeSantis gets angry, fucking base as hell. So that's also the way to look at it. And let me get my picture right back. So anyway, that's basically what I'm saying. And the way I see it is by basically negotiating and with Venezuela, easing the restrictions, actually taking it further and lifting the sanctions, and stop treating the country like it's a pariah. That is the way you can go and basically, normalize the country and lift the country out of its poverty. The poverty Venezuela has, it's been pushed on them. They did not bring it on themselves. Now, I know that there's a lot of Kool-Aid drinking people that will sit there and get their Fox News and Sean Hannity talking points and Ben Shapiro talking points, and you'll never convince them otherwise. There's no reason to. They're just as fucking wrong as hell. But there's a lot of people out there that may be prone to believe that you just tell them the truth and just use a little reason and just simply tell them the truth. They'll, hopefully they'll listen and be with that. So anyway, we have a chat line here. See that Hot Retarded Chicks is up here. How are you doing today? Great seeing you online. And we have Catherine Ann McCloskey. No, not content to be on the edge of a nuclear war with one superpower. Slow Joe is now baiting the Chinese. Hell Biden, hell victory. Yeah, that's not the smartest thing in the world to do with regard to Taiwan either. But this country's been in such a consensus of absolute preemptive military strikes and ask questions later approach. They seem to know no other way. And it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you dislike and disapprove of what I have to say, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're in fact the muckrakers of our time. Let me add to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And of course, remember, we have a class struggle to wage. We have war to fight. I mean, like fighting against war. It's kind of an oxymoron. So, yeah, let me just rephrase that. We need to oppose war. We need to protect our freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, which means what I normally say at each show, that we're all fucking Julian Assange. We're not fucking Julian Assange, but we're all Julian Assange. Is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, let me go and do this here, and we shall talk next time. Take care. See you all later.